My name is Chantelle Botha. I am an identity architect and sex factor catalyst, really about finding your X factor through talking about the stuff that makes you uncomfortable. Might be sex, might not. So you can expect a lot of whiplash in this episode. Stick around.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and you're tuned into the #1 place to discover exclusive insights from the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs, change makers, and thought leaders. Now, I must say this. Today, I'm actually thrilled to welcome back a dear friend on the show, somebody who just doesn't talk about transformation, but actually leaves it boldly and unapologetically. Now, Chantelle, how are you doing today?
Prosper, I'm so well and so excited to be back on the show. I always call you my brother from another mother, right? Because we both come from Zimbabwe. So I feel there's like such a kinship here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I was so excited when I saw your name on the roster, and I was like, oh, it's till 5. And that was a little bit earlier today. So I've been just sitting on here, just waiting for you to show up.
Amazing. Well, I've just been sitting on here waiting for you to show up. So here we are, right? Let's do this thing.
Great stuff. But for those that are tuning in, you might be thinking, wow, what is going on? I want you to meet Chantelle Botha, the catalyst of authentic transformation. Now, she's affectionately known as the catalyst, a global speaker, identity alchemist, and she's also the founder of Dragonfly. That's a coaching consultancy that empowers individuals to ignite the X factor and live with purpose. As you will notice, she's got dragonflies flying from every wazoo. There, I've noticed a necklace, her earrings. Talk about somebody who's always on brand. But it wasn't always like this. The reason why I'm so excited about having Chantelle on the show today is she's overcome so many things, and yet she is championing you, the listener, and some of her clients to actually do and have a happier existence. So from overcoming addiction on her own, and twice actually, to then raising her son as a single mother, Chantelle's journey is a testament to resilience, authenticity, and the power of self-belief. Now, her work is not just about personal development. It's actually a rebellion against shame. And she's also on a mission to help others reclaim who they really are. I mean, all of these people that we have on the show have a story, but Chantelle's transformational journey has got her to come back on the show, not only for the first time, but now twice. And I think this is now going to become a yearly thing, because why not? Now, Chantelle, I'm really excited. We've waited almost a whole year for you to come back. I know it takes a while for planes and things to fly to Australia and Zimbabwe, but we've got Zoom.
Exactly.
So we've done that, and I'm really excited about how you've literally redefined yourself, and how your story is not just inspiring but just a mirror reflecting the potential within each and every one of us to transform and lead lives of authenticity and purpose. Now, I'm going to ask you, the viewer, right now, if you're watching this right now, if you ever have felt lost or disconnected or in search of your own true self, I'm inviting you to actually watch this till the end. And if you can, maybe share your story in the comments as we go along, if you find any resonance with Chantelle's story right there, because every transformation begins with the first step. So I'm hoping that Chantelle's journey is just going to inspire you to take that step today. And if you are going to find any value or find a connection with somebody in the comments, Please make that happen. Now, Chantelle, I could go on and on. You know me, I would never shut up. You know what I mean? Since the last time we had you on the show where you shared your incredible journey of transformation, what's been happening? What's new in your world?
Wow, where do I start? Right. So let's dive in. Prosper, I'm first going to address to the listeners. You mentioned to the listeners if you're feeling lost, if you're feeling disconnected. And what I'm seeing more and more of is we live in a hyper connected world. I mean, you were talking about, I'm in South Africa, you're in Australia, we're connecting. And I do global business. I work internationally all the time across time zones, countries, continents. So we are hyper connected, but we have never felt more disconnected. And I see it with every single person that I come in contact with. And there is a solution for that. The problem is that our world is so noisy. We've been surrounded, and this connectivity has created so much noise in our world that we've forgotten how to tune in with ourselves. We're going around like automatons. We're acting like robots because we're just do. And there isn't ever that pause where we say, hang on, who am I? And it's that return to being. So I'm going to just preface what's happened the last couple of years since we spoke with that as a kind of, this is my story. We've got to come back to being, right? So last time we chatted, and I'm just trying to think in terms of progression of my story, I was doing fairly well. I think I'd had the business for about 3 years. My business has been running for nearly 6 years now. So it was probably around that time. Things were really taking off. I was a life coach, a career coach, working internationally, really happy, twice recovered drug addict. I lived the stuff, or I spoke about the stuff that I lived, and I've always believed in walking my talk. And I've always ironically said, I'm the kind of person that has to bump my head hard before I learn, right? And sometimes I'm like, I wish I could learn from other people's mistakes, but it seems to be I learn best through my own mistakes. And I think there was a bit of arrogance that came into this. Business was booming and there was a bit of arrogance. I made some really, really stupid business decisions. 3 years in, fair enough, right? But I paid school fees hard. 2023, I nearly lost the business. I nearly lost myself, Prosper. I've had suicidal ideations before, but I actually wrote my letters, sorted out my affairs. I prepared. I was actively researching how to take myself out and how to do it successfully. I had made the decision. I was wrapping up. I was done with this world. It was over. And I think what prompted that decision is I had started this business and I'd always said, there is no plan B. I'm not going back into corporate. I will not get another job, and I found that the business decisions that I had made had put me in a corner financially and otherwise where I just couldn't succeed. But it was my head that was talking. It was this, you're a failure, you're useless, you're worthless. It was these voices in my head. Now, I'll never forget, there was a morning probably about 10 days into this process of clearing up my affairs. I woke up and it was almost like my body spoke to me. I can't describe it. It was this visceral feeling, and my body screamed and it said, I want to live. And I thought, okay, who am I to say no to that? And I shifted and I thought, Chantelle, you teach this stuff, you teach the mindset stuff, but you've gone down that dark hole of doubting yourself. And I slowly started shifting. And I became really, really serious about applying the personal development work that I did. And this unfolded over the next probably 18 months, 2 years. But effectively what happened is I came back into my body. Through this process, I realized that since I'd quit the drugs, I had become disembodied. Everything that I did happened from the neck up. I was involved in a cerebral business. Everything is about creating here in my mind. All of the personal development work I did was about creating in my mind. It was about meditation, visualization, all of this. But I had forgotten that I had a body. Another thing that had happened is I was declared obese by this stage. I had packed on so much weight. I wasn't losing the weight. I was unhappy. I was unfulfilled. I just felt like nothing in my life was working. And then what happened is I sat and I had a business lunch, and this was this catalyst. This was the turning point. But before I tell you that story, I must just tell you, I've been perimenopausal for some years. And I'm very, very happy with the lack of desire in my life, lack of partners, lack of sexual interest. It's quite uncomplicated, and I've really been liking this stage, right? But now couple this with this disembodied state that I'm starting to recognize. I had a business lunch with a young lad, younger than my son, 23 years old, business lunch. And as I sat in this business lunch, I found myself getting aroused. And I thought, where does this feeling come from? What is going on? And effectively what that did is it kick-started what I'm calling a sexual awakening. But what really was about remembering I'm a woman, remembering I have a body, remembering that this body was built for pleasure. And no, it wasn't about going out and having a lot of sex. It was about fixing my ideas around my sexuality, fixing my ideas around my body, coming home to who I am. And out of this journey, I wrote my book, Phoenix Rising, due for publication, hoping within the next month or two. We're right at the final stages. Also, what I did out of this journey is I started working with women. Now, I must just tell you, I have never liked women. I've always remarked, you know what? I would far rather work with men because they're logical, there's no BS, they cut to the chase. I get along better with men, right? What happened is I automatically shifted and I thought, you know what? I get women. Suddenly I understand women because I resolved a lot of the shame that I'd carried for so many years. And I didn't even realize that I was carrying so much shame, which led me down such dark roads. It led me to the drugs. It led me to the suicidal ideation, right? So I've started working with women, and I can't tell you, I have had so much success with women. I run a women's membership at the moment, and it's a revolving membership, and it's growing all the time. It's a truly international community. And I've also just launched my first retreat, which will be happening on the island of Mauritius in December, called Phoenix Rising, built out of my book. So this is the story, but bottom line is, and I'm going to come back to what I said to your audience earlier, it's about connection. I gave myself space to connect back to myself, not just as a mind, but as a mind, a body, and a soul. And I was missing those other components. You see, when we embody who we are, that's when authenticity really, really fires. Okay, so that was a lot.
Chantelle, my name is Prosper Taruvinga. It's nice to meet you.
Does it feel like the first time, friend?
I don't think I've met this Chantelle.
Oh, I've just got goosebumps all over my body. Oh. You haven't, because she was in hiding last time we met.
Wow. So you actually were successful in the mission that you wanted to do because you obviously got rid of the other Chantelle who metaphorically you were successful at that, because now this is a whole new person that I'm meeting at this very particular moment.
Absolutely. And how many of us don't go around wearing these masks like I did for so long, saying, but I've got the job, I've got the position, got the clients, I'm successful. But there's something inside that niggles. And for me, I carried that niggle for 40 years. It was shame. it was that voice that whispered to me, you're not good enough. You can't do this. And I wrestled with it all the time. And now that I finally got rid of it, the masks have dropped. This is me. I've never been happier.
You see, Chantelle, I get prep notes from my team to tell me what to do when I'm having a meeting with someone, and now we're starting from scratch.
Sorry.
I literally am looking at a whole different person here.
I know.
And thank you so much for having gone through that journey, and thank you so much. Anyway, I don't need this anymore. We're here now.
Did I just ruin your whole playbook?
and in a good way, in an amazing way. Like, and you had to wait until we were recording, and that is not cool, my friend. Anyway, but what I really like about this is your journey has really transformed you, and you've come alive.
Yes.
And
yes,
my question now is, obviously now I've gathered myself, is it something that is open to everybody else, or is this only when somebody has figured out what they're supposed to be? Because so many people, like you say, are going through life on a humdrum, not necessarily knowing, is it night or is it day? And they're just going through. And as you say, it's all from the neck up without anything, they've lost feeling.
Yeah. You know what? The best example I can give you is there's so many movies and books about this sort of thing. The Matrix. We're all plugged into the Matrix. We're fast asleep. Don Miguel Ruiz, the author of The Four Agreements, he talks about this dream. We're in a dream. We've bought into this dream. And so many people don't even know there's more. I didn't know there was more. I thought I was living my best life. But I was plugged into the dream. I was plugged into the Matrix, right? So it's only, I think, yes, to answer your question, it is available to everyone. But this kind of transformation comes when you get really, really serious about your potential and when you're willing to do anything. And I did some hairy things, my friend. I really did some crazy things in this journey to transformation. And I always say to my clients, you don't have to do all the scary stuff that I did. I'm a little bit extreme. I get that, right? But just to give you an example, I did a psychedelic journey. That was one of my real sort of illuminators to the fact that my block came from my sexual ideas that I had about my sexuality. And that was the catalyst. There were many catalysts, but that was the thing that set me on the path. Hang on, let's look at your ideas about sexuality, because this is playing out in every area of my life. You see, from a sexual perspective, I never felt like I was good enough, and I always felt like I performed in the bedroom, But if I look at how I showed up in my world, I never felt like I was good enough, and I always felt like I performed. My whole career is based on performance. It's all based on you. It's not based on what do I want. It's not based on my pleasure. And in this awakening, I got really serious about my pleasure. And I thought, you know what, Chantelle, you have a body, and this body was built for pleasure. And we know women are built for pleasure, right? I'm sure you're thinking men are too, but from a biological perspective, we are built to receive, right?
Right.
So why deny us this pleasure? And then I translated that into everything in my life, and I started looking for pleasure in my business. I cut out all of the things that were bullshit in my business, all of the things that didn't bring me pleasure. I thought, I don't want to do that. I'm done. I'm not performing anymore. It's now about my pleasure. What brings me pleasure? That is the thing that I fight for every single day. And it's a lesson I learned in the bedroom, and I've applied it to my life.
Absolutely. And congratulations on that bit there. Now, let's just go back to that 3-year sort of when you were sort of getting started with your business. There's a stat that says not a lot of businesses go past the 3-year mark. And obviously that is something that, had you not come to your realization, you would have been a statistic. Now, what is it that you are now constituting as failure? Because from the time that we spoke, everything seemed to have been going well.
So what actually happened is, first of all, I had an investor come on board, and it felt fortuitous because I had this wave of success and it felt like it was absolutely meant to be. But in this process, with this investor coming on board, first of all, I felt like I had to perform to his expectations. Again. Do you notice that theme again? What happened is, as I started this process with him and I started performing to his expectations, I started getting this gnawing sense of, but it's not my business anymore. It's not my vision. It's not, and nothing had changed in the business, but I started feeling resentful. And it wasn't about him. It was about me, because I had shifted the way I showed up. As opposed to just being my authentic self, I had defaulted into that performance-based behavior. So I was performing to his expectations, making him happy, as opposed to making me happy, right? Out of this, I also hired someone, and it's been a horrible experience. I had to retrench her or lay her off 2 months after I hired her. And she was a friend of mine. And the relationship has been incredibly strained since then, you know. But I made the wrong decisions because I was performing. Because I had this mindset of, okay, Chantelle, you are now a successful business person. What does a successful business person do? What does the world expect me to do? As opposed to turning the question inwards and saying, well, what does Chantelle want to do? I got lost in performance.
That's a whole different way of looking at things, because so many of us just show up just because that's what the certificate says, or that's what the door says. And we just, not necessarily just in business, but also in our day-to-day lives. The title says dad, I just have to be there. The title says mom, I just have to be the one standing in front of the stove. But do I really want to do that? Now, you mentioned something that is very interesting, that your body made this visceral communication with you. Now, would that have been the first time that you heard that communication, or has your body been crying out all this time up until it gave up and, like you said, you're diagnosed obese?
I think my body had been crying out and my body had been giving me messages, but I hadn't been listening. And you know how many times you spoke earlier about Tim, the professional pointer who was on your show, and Tim always says, address your health issues before your body fails you, And yes, and just to talk about the obesity, I visited dietitians, I did blood tests, I tried every single diet under the sun, I tried exercise, I did everything. Nothing worked. Nothing would shift the weight. That was my body saying, whoa, stop your shit. And again, how many of us, particularly as women, we get to this sort of change of life, we start dealing with these physical symptoms that are a little bit alien to us, and we start feeding ourselves with drugs and external solutions, as opposed to going within and saying, hang on, what is my body saying to me? We've got to learn to listen to our bodies. They are so powerful, and there's so much wisdom within our bodies. And this is intuition. I led a session on intuition last night. And intuition is really just about coming back and saying, what feels right?
Wow. See, so many of us we grow up, you're just told, go to school, go to university, get married, have a job, and maybe get a disease and then die.
Exactly.
Nobody stops.
Do the thing.
You know what I mean? It's all like a whole line of things that you got to do. No one stops and says, hey, daughter, hey, son, have you checked in with what you absolutely want to be doing? And I think so many of us are just going along with what is and supposed to be right. Now, my question to you is, how do you hear your body telling you what to want?
Such a great question. I'm going to give you an exercise. Are you up for an exercise?
As long as it's PG, you've been throwing in.
It's PG, relax. Okay, so do me a favor. What I want you to do is I want you to repeat 3 times. You can close your eyes, but I want you to repeat 3 times. Hand on your heart. My name is Prosper, however you pronounce your surname.
Yep.
Just repeat it 3 times and notice what you feel in your body. Okay, now hold that thought. I'm going to ask you in a moment. Now I want you to do exactly the same exercise, but I want you to say, my name is Chantelle Botha. And notice what you feel in your body.
If
the face says it all. Okay, so let's dive into it. When you said your truth, how did you feel?
Yeah, it felt comfortable. It felt all right. You know, it felt
expansive. It felt expansive. It felt grounded. It felt resonant. Right?
Yeah.
But when you said, my name is Chantelle, how did your body feel?
I couldn't see. I rejected that. I couldn't see what my face was doing, but it felt like I was eating ginger. Yeah.
Yes, that's what it looked like.
Sorry, no, it's not my feeling on that. But I think I get it, because that's not my truth.
Correct. Now, how many times when we go into a business decision, you've got option A, you've got option B. So do exactly the same. Take option A, picture it, check in. How does it look? Option A. We're holding option A in our mind. And then flip it around. Okay, bring option B in. Hold option B. And notice what happens. And then you make your business decision from then. Then you make your relationship decision. Then you make whatever decision you're facing from there. Because your body has infinite wisdom.
See, now I know what to do when my wife asks me to take the beans outside. I'll just wait for a minute.
Might not be the best time to introduce intuition.
I want to see how it feels inside. I mean, if she has any complaints, I'll show her this segment of the Online Prosperity Show. Because
love it. And Prosper, you know what I just want to say as well? You know, so many people think that I get all woo-woo when I talk about intuition and body wisdom. There are so many scientific research articles in neuroscience, in psychology, in positive psychology. There are plenty of resources that are starting to recognize the power of intuition. And intuition has got 2 faces. There's an expert face and there's a mystic face. The expert face of intuition is about learned responses, right? So when you're driving down the highway, you know automatically when someone comes into your lane whether to swerve left or right. It's a learned response, but that's intuition. So we've got these learned responses that we can rely on. And then we've got the mystic side. And the mystic side is about the connection to your body. It's about the connection to each other, people, and it's about the connection to the world and, of course, to source energy. Now, we know scientifically that this whole world is made up of energy. And every single piece of matter, us included, vibrates at a certain frequency. That explains the mystical connection. We pick up on vibrations. So intuition is not woo-woo, it's science. But we've got to learn to tap into it. You see, we've been taught to trust logic as opposed to intuition. Our society rewards logical decisions, external guidance, but vilifies internal guidance.
You would then obviously start to think this was systemic. If somebody knows there is power in you having an understanding and that dance you keep talking about between yourself, your body, and the energy around you, you know, you would actually think somebody's doing their best to make sure everything just happens from the neck up.
It is systemic. And it's been systemic, I think, since Plato and Socrates had a chat in 400 BC, because they contrasted these two ideas. Do we build, not necessarily do we build society, but is logic and reasoning the master, or is the soul the master? And that was the language they used in those days. Our whole society has been built on logic. And logic is a masculine energy. And I'm not saying masculine as in gender, I'm talking about a masculine energy, right? Whereas intuition is a feminine energy. And if we look at the persecution of females and intuition over the years, it is absolutely systemic. But the good news is we're now entering an age where flow and creativity and all of those feminine energies are coming to the fore. If we look at where we're going with our technology, we have to learn to flow. We have to adapt. We have to bring that feminine energy. So our whole civilization is veering back to that feminine energy. And I'm not saying this from a perspective of women are going to rule the world and go queen, and that's not my thing. It's about balancing the energies. We need logic. We need that male energy, but it needs to be balanced with that feminine energy. And I believe we're swinging back.
But, you know, when things, and thank you so much for opening that sort of conversation, because when we're going through life, there's checks and balances in everything that we're doing. And like we have already established, you know, there's a way things have always been set up. And that's done in order to make sure that either people fall in line or people don't crush each other. You've mentioned the highway and things like that, because if you know you can weave through traffic and do whatever, you're not going to create that uniform way to be. So if the world is set up like that, how then do we make sure that we either practice this so that it becomes some sort of a habit? Because you had to take yourself out of maybe addiction and had to start over. There had to be certain things that we were doing daily that then helped you to maintain this resilience and, you know, stay on purpose.
I think it starts with getting to a place where you are just so done. And the more I reach out to people and the more I speak with people, collectively, our consciousness is just so done at the moment. We are feeling unseen, unheard, disconnected. We are done. And when we get to that stage, that's when it's almost a desperation that kicks in. I will do anything to fix this. And the solution is simple: turn inward. And this is why I say there's this wave, there's this shift in our society at the moment. There's such a wave of consciousness sweeping the world where people are talking about this return to mindfulness. All of the Eastern practices are now becoming firmly adopted in Western corporates. You know, we're having breath work in banks. I did a training session for one of South Africa's banks and I introduced breath work. You know, so there's this consciousness, there's this awareness. And all of these things, mindfulness, breath work, journaling, meditation, whatever it is, it's your route back to connecting with yourself. But there has to be that desperation that kicks in that says, I am done and I'm ready to try something else. Because the drugs don't work. The computer doesn't work.
But Chantelle, if Auntie Joyce has the same issues, Uncle Tom is also going through a layover at work and he's just sitting, maybe drinking clip drift by himself at home, and you know, and
South African.
You know, I just had to throw that in there, and you just past all of that. You know what I mean? You see it, and it becomes normal, which I think is in some places and some experiences, of people. How do people actually take themselves out of that sort of rut? Because the one thing about it all is, if it's there, what I'm trying to say is fish don't see the water that they swim in. And even though you have arrived at a place where you say, I've had enough, you end up putting your affairs in order like you did, which is obviously not the correct way to do it. But if it's so sudden for somebody, it will go ahead. But you had an opportunity for a rebirth. Now, how do you then guide others through their own cycles of maybe transformation or rebirths or things of that nature? Because I don't think it's easy. Even this question was not easy, Chantelle.
It's not easy. It's not easy, Prosper. And you know what? I love that expression, fish don't see the water they swim in. And until the fish is willing to see the water, the fish will not transform. But there are many fish that are starting to see the water. And the more fish see water, and this is this wave of consciousness and this return to this feminine energy in our society, the more fishes start seeing the water, the more people are going to start hungering for those fishes who've now got the vision. I know I'm speaking about fishes and people as making me a bit awkward, but that's the bottom line. We're not going to see it until we see it. And when we see it, then it's a simple case of find what works for you. I always say to people, identity architecture is the thing that I do. And it's really about coming back to who you are. But identity architecture is not a step journey. It's not a ladder. First we learn this, then we learn this, then we learn that. Identity architecture is like a wheel with spokes. And who you are, your true self, is here in the middle, right? And you can enter that wheel from any direction. I entered it from reclaiming my sexuality and shifting my beliefs, right? You can enter it from mindfulness. Someone else could enter it from yoga. Someone else could enter it from a near-death experience. It's what is the catalyst that's going to happen in your life that you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to allow this to break me open. I'm going to allow this. I'm going to go deeper into what's just happened to me and say, what is the meaning of this? And who am I as a result of this? There's many different routes to finding yourself.
I like that. I like that a lot. But you would understand that, I don't know if you've ever heard the analogy of a lobster. A lobster is a soft, mushy animal that has an external a skeleton, right? But the external skeleton does not grow in accordance to the growth of the lobster. So it literally has to break its shell, shed its shell and hide up until it grows another shell. Otherwise, it will be eaten by other animals of prey. Now, if lobsters acted like human beings, they'll just go to a doctor and be given a Valium or Vicodin or whatever it is or Zempic or whatever is on the market at that particular sort of time.
Yes. You're so right.
How do you get past it when there's enablers? So people that then you cry today and they just give you a pillow to cry on and, move on with your life and things like that. Because the reason why I'm saying this is, yes, somebody might have come into themselves, but there's always going to be those enablers that would then just say, nah, you'll be all right. Keep moving along. Here's a painkiller, and then move along. So if somebody has chosen themselves, what do they then do to stay true to that path?
It's a good question. And the image of the butterfly is coming to mind. They say when a butterfly comes out of a cocoon, and I'm loving the analogies. They're good. So when this butterfly comes out of the cocoon, it wrestles and it struggles to come out of this cocoon. But if you had to go along and cut that cocoon open, its wings would never be strong enough to fly, because it's in that struggle that it gains the strength to fly. So I'm almost going to say to your question, when you've discovered yourself, when you've come home to yourself, And the enablers and the noise of the world comes in and says, but just take a pill and you'll be fine. It's no longer an issue. It's no longer a deterrent. And I can only speak from my personal standpoint. I haven't removed the hardships in my life. I haven't removed the struggles in my life. Yes, I've undergone massive transformation. I've come home to who I truly am. And I've recognized that I am unapologetic. I am totally polarizing because I talk about sex, right? So you're either going to love me or you're going to think, oh, hell no, go, right? But I don't care anymore. It doesn't bother me. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, you have to arrive at a certain position to be able to say, you know what, I don't care anymore, because, so many people really look to society for clues as to how they can validate themselves. And that is the one thing that keeps bringing people back.
That's it. But you see, what I've recognized is me conforming to society the way I did for so long, and the expectations and all the rest of it, didn't bring me joy.
Right.
When I operate in my truth, it brings me incredible joy. I want to live a life of expansive joy. And again, I just want to clarify, it doesn't mean there are no more challenges. Life is full of challenges, my friend. And I'm facing big challenges at the moment right now. But you know what? I've got joy inside. And that's why I love the word joy, because joy is, I can experience joy in grief. And I feel that joy. It's this enduring, it's this who I am. But we've got to want to fight to get there. And it is available to everyone, if only we would remove those blinkers from our eyes and start seeing that we've been sucked into all these societal expectations. Society has told us how to live. It's not bringing any joy. When you decide how to live, it brings joy.
See, I work in marketing. And it's quite funny how people think they have a choice. When you put an offer in front of them, you know exactly, when you go on a website, when there's 3 tiers, they want you to get the middle one. The other one is just a decoy. The other one on the right is just to show you that it could be expensive if you don't get the one that we're showing you to. So there's a lot that is being thrown out there at people. I'm just talking about an example of something that I know. And one just really has to undertake the journey to understand themselves and really understand their identity, because you wouldn't know, what exactly is, going to turn you on or light a fire inside of you.
Exactly.
And I think identity is one of the things that you work with a lot. Now, how are you helping clients then uncover and embrace their true selves in a world where everybody has to be the same and drink the same water and wear the same
Kool-Aid? Exactly. You know what I've created, Prosper, is I've created through my years, wrestling with these subjects, I've created a 7-layer identity map. And my identity map is very often my starting point with clients. And it's also how I can show clients we can go really deep, but we don't have to go really deep. Because even if you just learn 1% more about yourself today, you are more empowered than you were yesterday. And sometimes we're not ready to go really deep, right? So I'm just going to kind of unplug the identity map in its layers for you. And when we think about, or when we dream about houses are very often representative of the self. So I've used a house as the analogy. So I want you to imagine a house with a couple of stories above it, a ground floor, and then 1 or 2 basement levels, right? So this is your identity. Now, the ground floor level, that's the most important level, because you enter the house and you exit the house through the ground floor level. That's your emotions. And how many women have been told you're too emotional? But we are emotional people. We are emotional by definition. It's just about how do we regulate our emotions. But emotions is how we live. Everything we do in this life creates a feeling. Even as we're sitting here on this podcast, I've got a feeling, you've got a feeling, there's a feeling. You might be feeling joy, you might be feeling, oh, when's she going to shut up, right? But there's a feeling. So we live through our emotions. So emotional regulation is really, really important. But now there's two things we can do with emotions. We can either express our emotions in a regulated way. I'm not advocating we go and have temper tantrums at work. So we can either express our emotions, in which case we release them and we push who we are up into the upper layers, or we repress our emotions. Oh no, I don't feel angry, she says with tight lips.
Yeah,
I'm not angry. Repressed emotions. And when we repress emotions, we're pushing that stuff down into our basement levels. That's the danger, right? So the upper levels, when I work with corporates, the upper levels are that's the identity work that I do with corporates, because we don't go to the dark side with corporates. You know, it's very scary for a corporate group to go to the dark side. So the upper levels are the things like the roles that you hold in society. What are the roles that we hold? I'm a mother, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a partner, whatever it might be. So we start with your roles. Then we look at the things that you're good at, the things that you love doing. We've traditionally called them strengths, but I don't like calling them strengths. What are you good at? What do you love doing? What sets your soul on fire, right? Because generally what you're good at points to your roles. And all these layers are intertwined. And we look at your values. What is important to you? And how have you betrayed your values, right? So those are the upper layers. That's the work I do with corporates. Strengths, values, roles. How do they interplay? And how do we use them to create our potential? Underpinned, of course, by emotions. How do we feel about these things? But if we want to go really deep, and this is the work that I do with my women's groups and with personal coaching, we go down into the basement layer. This is where your belief systems sit, your trauma, your triggers, and your shadow self. Remember what I said, when we don't express our emotions, and we are a society that has been taught to have poker face. We don't express our emotions. We repress them. We're pushing them down into our belief systems. So we not only have grown up with belief systems that say you're not good enough, we are now creating in ourselves belief systems that say, don't say what you're feeling, because they're going to take you out at the kneecaps, right? So this is, I mean, I could go on for hours about it, but this is the fundamental work that I do. I've got this identity map. All of the layers talk to one another. Very often we find something in the shadow self that links right back to a role that you hold, or a strength that you have, or a value that you have. And when we understand what's in the shadow, the trauma, the triggers, the belief systems, and we start shifting all of that, then what happens in the upper layers is freedom.
I like that. Absolutely. And obviously, if people are enamored with this 7-step sort of process, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you and maybe get started on this journey?
So they can go to my LinkedIn profile. I'm very active on LinkedIn. We'll pop a link, I'm sure, in the chat below.
Yep.
Or they can go to my website, www.dragonflyccc.com.
Absolutely.
And just a note on the CCC. The CCC stands for choice, chance, change. Make the choice to take the chance to ignite the change. Dragonfly CCC. There you go.
I like this. Absolutely. Now, this is quite amazing. You know, your journey, your life story, there's always these rebirths, and there's, oh wait, there's more, you know, when you're done. And it's so interesting. I really, first of all, commend you for having lived through this, because now that what I've just learned from all of this is, no matter what is happening in your life, take note of it, because one day you'd have a good story to tell, not only on the Online Prosperity Show, but now you've got a whole book out of all of this. And I think this is a gift that you're giving to the world. What can people expect in this book now?
So in this book, what I've done with the book is I've taken I like to think of it as a life coaching book that's got very risque subject matter. Let's put it out there. What I've done throughout the book is I've taken the sexual lessons, ideas, thoughts, experiences that I had, and I've applied them to life. So there's a chapter, for instance, called Performance versus Purpose, or Performance versus Pleasure, which is what we chatted about earlier. So I saw how sexually I had been a performer, and then when I put my pleasure first, how I applied that to life. So that's the thread that runs through the book. There's another chapter that says, I think it's called the treasure you seek most is in the cave you fear most, or something along those lines, right? And there was something sexually that really, really terrified me. It scared me, but more than scared me, it disgusted me. There was this world in this sort of sexual that I just thought, no, that is wrong. There is nothing right about that. But when I leaned into that, I discovered my own power. And of course, I know I'm speaking in circles now. I'm keeping it very PG. You're going to have to read the book to discover what that story is all about. But my point is, when we lean into fear, both sexually and in life, the reward is huge, huge.
I like that. I'm just on Amazon right now. Phoenix.
Phoenix Rising. Hopefully it'll be out within the next month or two.
Absolutely. Well,
Amazing.
Congratulations on all of this. I mean, not only, obviously, yes, you did sound a bit of an alarm to how you were, sort of developing in the first part of the conversation, but you've really, really come to life. And I think you also have a program called Reclaim to Flame, which not only are you helping others, I think it's an actual movement from what I'm seeing from it. What can people also expect from this one?
Absolutely. So Reclaim the Flame is my heart baby. Reclaim the Flame is effectively my monthly women's membership. Now, that's a paid program, and you can absolutely get in on that. We look at 12 different themes, so we revolve through the year, and it rotates. You join anytime, you leave anytime, you stay a year, you stay a month. Wherever you're at, whatever theme calls to you, that's when you join the program, right? And there is so much transformation happening here. It is just amazing. But for your listeners, what I do is I also run a monthly free webinar as part of the Reclaim the Flame series. And depending on when this podcast is posted, I'll send you the link for the next upcoming webinar.
Yep.
And again, they follow the monthly themes. So if you don't want to invest and you just want to hear a little bit about intuition or the shadow self or giving yourself permission or leadership, whatever it might be, whatever subject resonates with you, I cover all of them, then you can join those webinars.
Absolutely. And considering it's a webinar and it's being done online, anyone from anywhere in the world can join this, right? It's not restricted to... Absolutely. And speaking of being international, I mean, you've been a runner-up in a lot of global competitions. Your name has just been popping up in all these places, the Entrepreneur X Factor and things of that nature. But what I like about this, and my question now is, has any of this international acclaim also influenced what your son is now doing?
That's a very interesting question. I haven't even thought about that. And I don't think so, because my son and I have been on a very sort of similar trajectory from a timeline perspective.
Right.
Now, he started working overseas about 5 years ago, so just after I started the business. And he's been kind of following his own journey, and I've kind of been following my own journey. But what I do find really interesting is as I've built the business, I became a professional speaker, and I started speaking more and more on stages. And my son is an art auctioneer. And I said to him when he was home last time, I said to him, how is it that we both ended up on these stages, right?
Absolutely.
But I think it's personality more than anything. You know, if you look at me and you see a free spirit and a devil may care personality, Kyle is like that to the power of total free spirit.
Absolutely. And it's always interesting to see, you know, how they always turn out and things of that nature. Well, congratulations on that part. Now, Chantelle, this was obviously a wonderful surprise to actually meet.
Did you recover? Did you recover?
You literally took my breath away. I did not even know where to start, like literally. But thank you so much for that experience in and of itself. Now, knowing where you've been, what you've achieved and accomplished, and things of that nature. And I feel like a lot of people have been drawn into your space, your energy, and they just want to fly with you, you know, and rekindle that flame inside of them. What's next? What are we going to be celebrating next? Maybe when we catch up in the next time.
So I've been waiting to tell you this one. But before I answer your question, I just want to say again to the audience, my story is not about me. My story is a light to say you can do anything if only you want it enough. So my story is actually about you. So back to what's next. I am about to embark. I think last time you spoke to me, I had just started traveling, but I was traveling locally, sort of South Africa, Mozambique.
Right.
In a couple of weeks' time, I'm embarking on, I know I'm 48 years old and it's the first time I'm doing this, but I'm doing it, a huge international trip.
Oh, wow.
I leave for Mauritius probably in about 6 weeks or so.
Right.
And I will be in Mauritius until the end of the year. Then wait for it, my friend. I'm coming to Australia. I'm going to be in Cairns by March next year.
Yes, definitely hit me up as soon as you're around. Okay, let's figure that out.
I'm so going to. We will take a selfie together and be like in the flesh, right? And then from there, I'm feeling a call towards Europe.
Okay.
But I also don't know. I might bounce Bali, India in between. But I'm feeling a call towards Europe and the UK. So I have a feeling, I've always called myself a slow mad. I don't stay in a place for less than 3 months. So you can imagine I'm going to be gone for traveling for at least the next 2 years. So it's terrifying, but it's exciting. I can't wait.
Well, the part that I heard is you're going to be on Australia mainland, and now that's a cause for celebration. All the other places, you can send me a selfie or something like that. But as soon as you hit the mainland, just let me know, and we'll figure out a way to make that happen. Now, I can't wait. I can't wait for that reunion to start happening, and hopefully, when I meet you, please let me know in advance who I'm going to be meeting, because that whole surprising me in front of people thing.
I love it. I have it on good authority that you're going to be meeting the same person you're meeting today, maybe a little older and a little wiser, but same person. Fantastic. My transformations are done. Now we're just honing.
Thank you so much. You know, because for a moment there, I was thinking, wait a minute, am I in the wrong interview here? Did I just rock up to... But that was amazing. Even I felt that transformation. So congratulations on the work you've done on yourself. I mean, your life story and your experience, like you say, is not necessarily about you, but it's also a testament to other people that if you really apply yourself and you check yourself from the neck up, really, or I mean, not from the neck up, like everybody says,
from the neck down,
from the neck down, and just listen in. Yeah, everything else is designed to get your attention on the outside. But when do you stop to literally listen? And it's usually when you do, life begins, you know, and that's the very interesting things. And speaking of analogies, you know, if you look at an egg, if you hit it from the outside, that's the end of life. But if it cracks from the inside, life
the beginning of life. Beautiful. Yes.
I think we needed to get here.
I think so. I think so.
Thank you so much for joining us on this transformative journey with Chantelle.
Prosper, thank you.
Fantastic. And for those that are watching right now, if her story resonated with you, just please share this episode with somebody who might be on the brink of letting it all go, and they might be thinking, this is it, really. Check in with your friends, check in with your mates. They might actually be looking A-okay, but deep down, nobody has actually connected with them. Maybe you be that for your friends. And if somebody has shared this video with you, give them a hug. They've seen something that you might not have been able to see. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more insightful conversations like this. And I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, experiences, and questions in the comments below. I think Chantelle will stick around for a bit and chat with those that are building a community around. Or if you really want to connect with Chantelle, I will put all those links in the show notes below so that you can either connect with her on her monthly webinars or actually join her programs. And let's just continue this conversation and support each other on the journeys towards authenticity and purpose. Right? Until next time, bye for now.